Our GMC Sierra tweet tonight comes from the Chicago Bears. We have completed an interview with head coaching candidate Arthur Smith. So that's going to be 2 because he's going to meet with the Jets tomorrow. Mike McCarthy's also looking at a job over there. So Arthur Smith, although I don't see him getting these jobs, and my best guess is he'll remain here as offensive coordinator. But if he does get one of these jobs, and I would want the one with Caleb Williams if I had my choice, only because I think they have a guy there they could work with.
Well, you don't want to work under the whims of teenager Brick Johnson in New York. You don't want to be subject to the rich kid who goes by Madden ratings and what he thinks are cool vibes. I can't imagine why anyone wouldn't want to work for the New York Jets.
Well, my preference, if I'm him, is that job. If I don't get it, I'm back here. It's also a very important job for him to get because how many shots do you get at being a head coach? And if, his last one didn't go so well, 3 straight 7-10 seasons with Atlanta, you better make sure it's the right job. And to me, if he's going to get one, he would hope that it would be the Chicago job, I suppose.
He would, and Caleb Williams is certainly any offensive coordinator worth his salt who's taken that head coaching job would then say, well, I want to work with this very talented player who clearly didn't have the right situation around him in Chicago this past year. But, man, I just don't know how anybody could actually look at the Steelers' offense under Arthur Smith and really feel like it was anything different or anything that warranted him getting another head coaching job, especially this soon. And as our viewers watch Mike Tomlin walk behind him in that shot, I can't help but wonder how much of Arthur Smith's struggles this year to get this offense really untracked are due, A, to Mike Tomlin's just insistence and hesitation when turnovers started to happen and desire to go back into kind of a conservative shell. And then I wonder if Arthur Smith really even got to run an offense with the quarterback he wanted to run the offense with this year. I think it was Mark Goalie had the reporting out there, Bob, that he and Russell Wilson did their best to try to have a good working relationship, but there was just a lot of kind of clashing. I didn't get a sense that it was Todd Haley, Ben Roethlisberger clashing, but those guys clearly had differences that they tried to put aside. So I just wonder if Arthur Smith feels like he was handcuffed by a pretty immobile player, even though Russell Wilson seemed to, at least temporarily, raise the ceiling of this offense.
All right, well, get back to Ryan Zedek's tweet to us about this signing of Jari is worse than anything Ron Hextall did. I'm trying to jog my memory because I do think there are a couple of things that happened in Hextall's tenure. The Granlund thing comes up real quick to me. I mean, he acquired him at $5 million, then he had to dump him. Letting Tanev go, Jeff Carter was available in this draft, the expansion draft. Is there anything else?
No, I think he butchered it, yeah. I think he butchered the expansion draft pretty badly. Tanev, what about, I think Jared McCann, unless I'm completely crazy.
Yep.
I think he did a horrible job. The Jeff Carter stuff was terrible. That was also, you got to remember Brian Burke is in the shadows there, and they're kind of running this thing together. And I think there were a plethora of poor moves made by those two. But the truth of the matter is, I think Kyle Dubas took a job with a lot of job security because they're going to pay him a lot of money for several years and knew that he had to serve two masters, one that wanted to try to win now and one that wants him to start the process of rebuilding this thing. I do think he's starting to stockpile younger players and picks, and I think rebuilds in hockey are very finicky and difficult to pull off, but he's at least headed in the right direction there. But his moves, Bob, in the immediate term to try to make this team better as far as being a contender now, as far-fetched as that might seem, his big two moves have been horrible. Even if the Jari thing was more or less foisted upon him, and I think it was, that doesn't excuse paying Ryan Graves that kind of money. We've got Devils fans that produce shows at 93.7 The Fan who said Ryan Graves stinks the day that deal was inked, and they look very prescient now. Because he does. Yeah. And he's probably miscast on this roster, too. Just two major moves, a lot of money that you could have spent elsewhere, and Kyle Dubas chose very poorly, with how he decided to allocate it.
Let's go to the lines at 412-575-2600. We got Todd in Pittsburgh first up. He wants to talk some Penguin hockey. What's up, Todd?
Going.
Good.
Hey, well, I watched the game last night. Irritated me. Or goaltending. Part is, you're going to play the young guys. I'd love to see Pickering have his ice.
I think your call is being interrupted or dropped off or something. If you're making a case for young guys, you're going to get no argument for us. I want to see at this point some other guys come up. What does it hurt? We mentioned some of the signings of the big contracts, but there have been a lot of other contracts that have come too, that haven't really worked out. If you add it all together, you're going to find a lot of misspent money, I think, so far. And you can debate whether or not the Carlson thing was worth doing because it hasn't really worked so far. Now, that doesn't mean it can't work, but they got to figure this out pretty quickly. They're running out of time. And, you know, I'd rather see right now Bloomquist. I said it last night to you, Chris, and I go back to St. Louis, and I know it's a better team at the time, but they brought in Binnington out of nowhere, and he led them. Not that I'm predicting a Stanley Cup, but I mean, you never know what you're going to get from a goaltender. If you you saw it last night, right? Joey Decourt is the guy over there from Seattle. They like him. He's played well. He stole that game, and Jari let it go.
I think it can go both ways. If you have a goalie play tremendously well and steal games, I think it's a serious shot in the arm for morale, and guys are really motivated to play even better so the guy doesn't have to stand on his head. Conversely, when you have a game like last night, where really for the majority of the Penguins dictated play and were the better team as far as tilting the ice, but the goalie gives up 3 goals when he probably should have given up 1 by rights, then I think that really deflates the group. So, yeah, you hope that the young and talented goalie is able to give them a shot in the arm. There are other deals, you're right, though, to go back to that really have not worked out. Fourth-line depth guys that just really haven't panned out. A guy like Eller that he already traded. And I'll say this about Karlsson. Now, this might surprise you, Bob. You might disagree. I put more of that on Erik Karlsson he's been whatever. He's been like average on his best day. There have been flashes, but he's played some just tremendously irresponsible hockey since he's gotten here. This was the only place he wanted to be traded to. You could kind of read the tea leaves when that happened. He was steering himself to Pittsburgh. So it's like, oh, you're going to not make the deal to bring Erik Karlsson to your team for probably less than you'd otherwise have to give up? You know, every GM's going to make that trade that Dubas did. The problem is that once the guy got here, just no structure, no edict from Mike Sullivan, you've got to play this way. It's been a fit disaster when everybody else thought it would probably be a pretty good one.
Brandon in Uniontown is up next. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, how you doing, Bob?
Good. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to talk about the Penguins a little bit. I know you were just talking about the Erik Karlsson trade, but I just wanted to talk about the Dubas in general. Roughly $22 million he has spent on 3 trades or signings: Ryan Graves, Erik Karlsson, and Tristan Jarry. And it just really irritates me. I'm a season ticket holder, and it just irritates me every time I go there. And it's just like I keep waiting for change.
Well, the change should be
happening. It's just
I hear you. Especially if someone's paying money to go watch them. And again, I'd like to see more of what I saw from the first 2 periods last night on a consistent basis. Too many times also this year, Chris, you know this, they've played 20 really good minutes and 40 really bad minutes, and it's been very sporadic. They've let leads dissipate. They've given away points. I mean, these are things that should not be happening with a team this experienced and this heavily laden with 30-something hockey players.
Well, I mean, the 30-something hockey players might explain the fact that their legs seem to go or that they seem to suddenly just play very poorly. Fatigue, I think, and age has to be at least part of that explanation. But again, the guy that doesn't get mentioned all that much and I know that we're talking about Kyle Dubas. I understand that that's the reason why, he's the guy we're discussing here. But where's Mike Sullivan getting in on the blame game? I mean, where does it come back to? I don't care how much Fenway Sports Group likes the head coach. I don't care how great he was in 16 and 17, doing something that was then unprecedented in the cap era and bringing a team back-to-back cups. It's a what have you done for me lately business, if you'll pardon the use of the very overused cliche. What has Mike Sullivan done for the Penguins lately, Bob? That's semi-rhetorical, because I don't feel it needs to be explained, but if you'd like to give me some sort of devil's advocate case for why I shouldn't be pointing a very, accusatory finger at Mike Sullivan for a lot of this, I'll happily listen.
No, there's no question about it. And I think finally this year, they've split up some of the pieces of their power play. It was too redundant and too repetitive last year and the year before, and their numbers went down. They were playing the same way. They weren't doing anything different. At that point, it's time for somebody to do something, and at least this year they've moved it around a little bit, and I think it's had results. Real quick, let's go to Steve in Pittsburgh, trying to get this in before the break. Hey, Steve, what's up?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just curious about the goaltending coaches. For the past 20 years, pretty much, the goalies can't catch a puck at all. They're just waving at it. I mean, you look at Fury. when he left, right before he left, he had a little bit of struggle. Then when he went to Vegas, they had a different goalie coach.
Well,
and
I got to go to a break here, Steve. I hear
What
you're
happened?
saying.
What happened, Steve? In Fleury's last year here, what happened? Can you tell me, Steve, what happened to the Penguins in Fleury's final season here,
It's
where their
Fury.
season ended up?
Get it right. It's Fury.
Yes, I'm sorry. Marc-Andre Fury and Tyson Fleury, the boxer,
Isn't
yes.
it funny that Fury is still playing? These other guys are all not. They're not playing well. And here he is still standing. We got to go to a break. Way over. We'll take it. Come back with more on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. 4 good games on tap. I know the point spreads say differently maybe, but I'm still intrigued. But Chris, I would say that either Sirianni or McDermott had the most pressure on them as a head coach. Which of those guys, or is there someone else who has more pressure this weekend?
Well, Sirianni's always under pressure there, but I'm sure Big Dom will protect him from any kind of real broadsides from the Philly media if they lose this game. My temptation was to say McDermott. I think he's the reason the Bills don't have a Super Bowl because of how he butchered the 13 seconds game. But I'll actually go off script and say this. Dan Campbell, you're the man. You've done an unbelievable job 2 years in a row. Your aggressiveness maybe cost you a little bit in the NFC title game last year. How long before people start going tick, tick, tick if they don't win it this year when they might well have the best team?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, given how he really cost them, I think, a legitimate shot last year. So we'll see how that goes. Should be a fun weekend. Chris, as always, thank you. I appreciate it. And we'll see you over on 93.7 The Fan. Thank you all for joining us. Our apologies if we didn't get through to you tonight. Wish we had more time. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow at 10:35.